Go on.
Before we actually get started, where do you rank the FA Cup in terms of your favourite competitions? Because a lot of people say this is the best cup competition in the world, domestic cup at least. So where do you rank the FA Cup? Because I enjoy it a lot.
Do you know what? I think in terms of history, it's up there. Like if you look at the history of the FA Cup and everything involved with it, I can understand why people say it is the best domestic cup in the world. And to some extent, I think I'll agree. I think throughout, English football and not just English football per se, but throughout football in general, I think there's a reason why obviously the Premier League is probably the most known league in the world. And if that's the case, then I don't see why the FA Cup isn't the most prestigious in the world, because obviously it's coming from the most known league in the world, in a sense, and it being English. So I think I'd back that. I'd say, domestically, I think everyone probably knows more about the FA Cup than any other cup.
Yeah, I just love it because I just like the fact that a team that's in like, I don't know, the sixth tier in English football can play at Old Trafford. I just love that concept.
Yeah,
and that's why it's one of my favourite cup competitions, especially because obviously Arsenal have won it the most. So,
yeah, and I think even if you look back at, I fully back you, and it's very true. And this whole thing of the magic of the FA Cup, only the FA Cup will bring you a season where Wigan will beat Manchester City to win it.
Exactly.
I seem to forget that day. Was that back in like 2012?
That would have been. I think it would have been around 2012. I just remember it's Watson.
Yeah,
Watson,
I mean,
if
we've got that wrong, just put it down in the comments below and just remind us. But I just remember it being some 8 years ago. But anyway, the FA Cup is brilliant, and as such, I think it's probably best to start with the most recent game, which of course was Manchester United versus Chelsea, or Chelsea versus Manchester United, depending on who you support.
Yeah.
But in particular, I just kind of want to start with Eric Bailly's injury, and a very, very unfortunate case again for Bailly, who just can't seem to get going. Like it doesn't seem like it's working for him at all, does it?
Honestly, like I really feel sorry for him. Like, he just can't get a good run in. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, I think that's the aspect that hurts, because even if you look at the injury yesterday, so within the first half, he basically goes up for an aerial challenge, clashes heads with Kurt Zouma. As soon as I saw that, I said to my brother, we were watching the game together, I was like, that's going to hurt, because both of them look like, especially Bailly looks like he has a very hard head. So I just knew that was going to hurt the both of them. Both of them went down instantly. They had to get the medics on to come and check on them. Thankfully, they both rose up to their feet. Obviously, did the precaution, went off, made sure they were okay. You can see the medics were on the pitch, sort of like doing the visual checks to see if they weren't like had any long-lasting sort of like concussion that had stayed with them after the head clash, and everything seemed fine. So they both came on, and now minutes later, again another aerial challenge. This time, I think it was the two of them, Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly, jumping for the ball alongside Olivier Giroud. So the funny part is Giroud completely missed the header. So he was away from that head clash. But then Maguire and Bailly kind of put their heads in at the same time. And I think the side of Maguire's head, so his temple area coming towards his eye, then clashes with Bailly's head at like full impact at the time. And initially, when it happened, I personally thought Maguire was worse for wear, mainly because of the area that Bailly connected with, it being the temple and everything. I thought Bailly would have come off the better player between the two. But then, and it looked as though that was the case. Bailly literally rose up to his feet. It just kind of looked like, it was a bit of a sore one. And then he just started taking a few steps, and then he just fell to the ground. And at that point, I think everybody on the pitch was very, very worried, including myself, because you never want to see that in terms of that side of things, in terms of like this whole injury. And if it's going to be a concussion, for a player to rise up and then fall down again, there's an issue.
Yeah, I even think the last time we even saw that was probably Fabrice Muamba.
Exactly.
That was a really, really scary time in football.
Yeah, so I think at that point everyone was alarmed, and so long story short, he was stretchered off with obviously everyone's best wishes. But this morning, or maybe about an hour ago, so early afternoon, we've read that he's now been discharged from hospital, and he seems to be okay. So that's brilliant news But just for Bailly in general, I mean, let's talk a bit about, you know, his time at United. There isn't really much to talk about. But
let me get started on this because, like I was saying before, he just hasn't been able. Obviously, what happened on Sunday, we can't really say much about it. You know, it's an unfortunate incident. But the injuries that he has been accumulating since he's joined Man United has been crazy. Signed for them in 2016. Yeah, and hasn't even played 100 Premier League games for them. Like, that is crazy, you know. I've actually got his injury history up on the screen right now, yeah. And the season before he came to Man United, so his last season at Villarreal, he actually got injured 3 times in that season, yeah. Comes to Man United, gets a knee injury out for 38 days. Gets a bruise the next season, out for 21 days. In the same season, gets an ankle injury out for 100 days. And then this season, got a knee injury, or he had to have a knee surgery, and he was out for 154 days. So I'm just like to myself, wow. And he's missed 28 games this season.
That's incredible. I think it's incredible, and it's incredibly unfortunate as well, for the number of seasons that he's been at United as well. Just to not have a steady run in the team. And I believe you compared him to a past Arsenal midfielder.
He's the Abu Dhabi of the Man United defence.
And do you know what? As much as I agree with that statement, I really, really don't wish that upon him, because I think Abu Dhabi's career, it was just an unfortunate series of events.
The reason why I make that comparison is because somebody that has so much potential, his career is basically not getting off to a good start. Well, his career got off to a good start, but it's just not been able to flourish because of injury. You know, whenever Abu Dhabi steps on the pitch, he was putting in a shift, got injured, out for weeks, out for months. You know, it's unfortunate. And that's the same thing with Bailly. If you look back to Igalo's debut, when United played Chelsea, Bailly was putting a shift. For me, he was the man of the match in that game. You understand? And it's just, I'm like, if this guy had a good season, I reckon he could definitely be up there competing with the likes of Van Dijk.
Yeah.
On a serious level, because he has the potential to do that. And I think a lot of United fans think the same.
I mean, even if you look at it, the way I look at it is there's a reason why Manchester United decided to buy him. It wasn't on a whim. It wasn't as though, you know, it's like they just needed defenders. Like, at the time, he was showing a lot of quality at Villarreal. And he was actually quite someone that they talked about quite a bit. So, you know, obviously we just wish Bailly the best at this point. And we just really, really hope that this is going to be the last time we're going to be talking about any sort of injury for him, because he just really needs a steady run in the team.
Yeah, man. 100%.
But
Arsenal played Manchester City in the FA Cup final on Saturday evening. That was a good game. You know, Arsenal really surprised me. What did you think of it? You know?
It was, look, at the end of the day, I said this after the game, that I don't think I've seen an Arsenal side play like that in a decade. The amount of grit, the amount of intelligence, and the amount of just all-round sort of like, they had a game plan, and they went out there with a game plan, and they executed it to perfection. But anyway, I believe obviously at this side of the segment we've called FA Cup hits and misses. So we're going to be talking about, you know, what worked well for the teams and all of the teams that played in the FA Cup, and obviously what wasn't so good. But in terms of Arsenal as a whole, I think it was a masterclass. That's literally the only way I can put it. The game didn't start very well, admittedly. I honestly say that the first 5-10 minutes I was a little bit worried, but it was a masterclass. But what did you make of it anyway? What were your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? I went into that game with no confidence. I thought Manchester City have been in top form. I was thinking to myself, this is going to be a disaster. But at the same time, I'm thinking Arsenal always perform well at Wembley. There seems to be something that happens, you know. The last time we played Manchester City in the semi-final in the FA Cup, we beat them as well, you know. So obviously, for the team you support, you're always going to have that little bit of hope that, I just hope we can win this game. But in terms of quality, on paper, I just didn't see it working. So to come out with a 2-0 win and a clean sheet, I'm just thinking, wow, what a shit. But I was saying to you before, like, it just annoys me the fact that a team can play so well one day and be absolute shambles another day. You know, not even just average, absolute shambles. So it's crazy. But and City worked their asses off. City wanted to beat us that game. They were working. They had chance after chance after chance. But
I mean, the difference is true. The difference is of course with you know, a lot of people would call it a fluke, but the thing that I saw with that game was that, and the reason it wasn't a fluke is not because of the fact that City had so many chances. They created chances. I wouldn't even say so many. They created chances. But the thing that I loved was the fact that Arsenal had just as many, or maybe even if not more, clear-cut chances than City did. So it was just an even game. But just one team was just drilled so much better than the other. And I think that's where the difference came. But obviously, in terms of our hits and misses, the first hit that we've got on the sheet is this whole statement of Aubameyang doesn't score against big clubs. Now, I took that and I decided to liberate my guy. And I didn't even want to go back to, like, you know, previous seasons, maybe last season where he got Golden Boot. I decided, let's look at this season. Let's look at the teams that we played against this season, and let's look at the goals he scored, or the teams he scored goals against. So I've made a list of every single team that Aubameyang has scored a goal against. And someone please tell me if these guys aren't big teams. So the first team I've got on the list is Tottenham. He scored against Tottenham. Next name I got on the list, or the team name I got on the list, is Manchester United. Scored against Wolves. He scored against Chelsea. He scored against Leicester. And now he's bagged a brace against Manchester City. So can someone please tell me where this whole misconception of Aubameyang not scoring against big teams has come from?
I think where it comes from is important big games. Because if you look back at Baku with Chelsea, you know, even though we don't, obviously football's not a one-man. I mean, there's no one-man team in football at the end of the day. The whole of Arsenal played badly, but Aubameyang didn't score. I think people will use that as a point. If you look back at the penalty miss in the North London derby at Wembley against Tottenham, that broke it. We're talking about last-minute penalty, and you're our most clinical striker, and you can't put that in the net. I think that's where people are starting to get that misconception from. Obviously, Aubameyang is clearly Arsenal's best player right now. You know, he's saved us so many times. But it's those important big games, in my opinion, that Aubameyang may not show up.
The thing I'll attribute that down to, and I can completely understand what you're saying and where the misconception might stem from. But at the end of the day as well, I think, as I keep saying, there's a whole aspect of mentality to think about, the mentality going into those games. And as you said, the whole team is performing poorly. Do you get what I mean? And it's not even like we're playing against bad opposition. Aubameyang has shown on countless occasions that he can actually carry the team. But, you know, I think if we're playing against amazing opposition like Chelsea, Manchester City, I think it's a huge ask to get someone like Aubameyang to carry the team. If I look back at the game against Aston Villa last season, I believe, where we beat them 3-2, and he basically carried us to that victory because I think 2 of the goals were more or less solo.
Yeah.
But, you know, he even if they weren't solo goals, he's actually the one that actually got us to the end of the line on that game. And I think he even scored a free kick. I believe the winning goal was a free kick in that game. So he basically carried us. But I think it's a huge, huge ask of people to have one man, when we're playing against very good opposition, to have one man, you know, carry an entire team. It just doesn't work. The next point is Pepe's growth. I mean, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but how much do you think we're going to see from this guy next season with what he's shown?
I think we're going to see so much. He's building confidence. Like I said on the previous episode, I'm not going to make a judgment on whether Pepe has been good or bad this season. I just want him to enjoy his football. You know, you can't expect somebody to come from a league that we always grill and say is a farmers league, come into the best league in the world, and put in a performance for the whole season. Like, you can't expect that to happen. Sometimes it does. Don't get it twisted. Sometimes it does, but you can't expect it to happen. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just take a step back and I'm just gonna let Pepe do his thing. And from what I've seen so far, he's been. I think I saw a stat the other day that he's been involved in. I think in terms of goals and assists, his tally's up to 17. And I'm like, that's pretty decent. That is for a guy that we pulled the flop of the season, you know.
Which is, I still can't
season.
believe. I can't believe people have been saying stupid stuff.
You know what I mean?
Honest, but yeah,
people are saying he's the worst buy of the season. I mean, to be involved in 17 goals, like, come on, bro.
They've got to put some respect on the name. Yeah, he's done for me. For me, I fully agree with you, bro. He's done very, very well, very well. But yeah, the next hit, Arsenal's defensive performance. How are we looking at that? The defensive performance in the game against Man City.
Brilliant.
But then the thing is, it was amazing, bro. But let me cast your mind back to maybe the first 15 to 20 minutes. There was an instance when Mustafi had the ball in our 18-yard and literally just gave it away to Raheem Sterling. I remember another instance where Hector Bellerin had the ball at the right flank and passed it right into the middle to Gabriel Jesus. Now, this is what I'm saying. We started very badly. We didn't start very well. we really didn't start.
Sometimes we just need that wake-up call, man. Sometimes those players just need a wake-up call. Like, oh, okay, okay. We're not playing Watford here. We're playing Man City at Wembley. Pattern up. And then I think from then they patterned up. For me, the reason why it was a masterclass is you could obviously see. I said so many times that if we didn't have Arteta taking us into that game, I'm not too sure if we would have won it. And it looks like, you know, he knew Pep inside out. And obviously him working with City for a couple of years as well, he would have known exactly how City play. And for me, when I analysed the game and I watched it, the thing that stood out to me is the classic City ball, which is every single time they get the ball on the left flank or right flank, they cut it back. Yeah. That's the classic City classic City attack. And there's always someone in that middle area of the 18-yard to maybe have a shot or work something. But it just seemed like Arsenal had the answer. And I think what Arteta must have told Granit Xhaka, who had a very, very good game that day, was that occupy that middle area that they're going to cut the ball into. Because the amount of clearances we've got from that era, and if it wasn't Xhaka, it was someone else, he must have maybe even told the whole team that every single time there's an attack or City have the ball on the flanks, make sure you wait in that middle area of the 18-yard. And I think that was not so much that alone, but that was one big thing I think that actually really nullified City, because ironically, the one time that nobody actually picked the ball up in that middle area, remember Raheem Sterling had that chance and he missed. And pulled it wide away from the goal. But for me, I think it was just this whole word of a masterclass being sort of attached to it, because I think that alone, coupled with other things, the defensive performance I think was just brilliant. So the next hit I think is for Manchester City, because if there's any City fans watching this, you probably think we're talking about Arsenal way too much, but I'm not going to lie, you lost the game, so there isn't really much I can take for your side. But for City, I think that, I'm not too sure if you think this statement is fair, but it says even though it wasn't a classic City performance, City still attacked and created a number of chances. They're a crazy team, bro. They're a crazy team. The thing is, when you play a team like that, you need a little bit of luck. I can't lie to you, because if their finishing was on point, they probably could have scored two or three. You know, easily, bro. They know how to exploit our defense. Manchester City going to, like, because you've seen their form in previous games where they've been playing around teams, destroying them, bro. Like, going into that game, I was scared. I was like, we will concede today. But to get a clean sheet, you need a little bit of luck against City. I think so much goals this season.
No, ironically, I think the beauty is, though, even though we had a bit of luck, I think City had a bit of luck as well. Because realistically, remember at the beginning, everybody was saying that first half could have finished 3 or 4-0 if we were firing. And similarly for City. So I fully agree with you. On the day, ironically, both teams just looked equal. We looked equal with the best team in the country. So it's amazing. But that, I think for me, that was the only hit for City. But do you want to go through the misses and we'll have a look to see where people could have improved? There aren't many, are there?
No, to be fair. I mean, you mentioned Arsenal start to the game. Defensive giveaway was sloppy. Do you think City's defense was poor? Would you class it as poor?
I think their defense was poor on the day, mainly because of the amount of chances we actually made in that first half. I'm not too sure if anyone actually fully grasped the amount of chances we made, but Arsenal talked through them quite a few times. And it's clear to see that even with Laporte, who they've mentioned so many times that maybe because of Laporte they haven't done as well as they would have wanted to and everything, even with him back there, it wasn't a very good performance at all from their defense. And me personally, the two things I have to look at is Aubameyang's first chance where David Luiz played the ball from the middle to get him through and then he shot it at the goalkeeper. And also that second goal that he scored. He should not have been through like that. That was terrible.
I honestly, I don't think I've seen anyone break away from a City defense like that.
That quickly, yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of pace, don't get me wrong, but it was almost too easy as well.
But this is why I asked though, because I'm looking at the situation like Pepe to Tierney and Tierney looping it over is brilliant play. Because sometimes you have to look at it like this: was the defense poor or was the attack really good? Because sometimes an attack can just be really good, and the defense is still decent, but the attack was just really good.
No, it was a great piece of play. Don't get me wrong. I fully agree with you on that it was a great piece of play. However, the other question that might have been asked is it was a brilliant breakaway. But I personally feel as though the defense were asleep in the sense of how far forward they had actually pushed. Because if you think about it, the ball being looped over, Aubameyang had all that space to run into if he actually timed his run right. So I think at that time, me personally, I reckon that the defense got a bit complacent in the fact that City had pushed Arsenal into their half. So they thought they could keep them there. All of the centre-backs, the wing-backs and everyone moved forward. And at that point, they just basically just got caught out. But I am not taking anything away from Arsenal's goal there because it was a brilliant goal and it was well worked. But at the same time, for me, I think it was Garcia, Laporte, and I believe the other one was, well, obviously they were playing four at the back. So Garcia and Laporte were the two centre-backs. Kyle Walker and Mendy, I think just, as I said, they just pushed all the way up. And that's how City play anyway. So by that juncture, there was just so much space for Aubameyang to run into.
It was really much space, man.
But for me in general, I honestly don't think their defence was that great on the day. Chelsea, Manchester United. What do we reckon?
Chelsea, Manchester. Do you know what? Looking back at that game, I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know if United wanted it. Because even when they were 3-0 down, they're putting close-ups on some of these players' faces and they don't even look like they're upset. If we were 3-0, if Arsenal were 3-0 down to City, you'd see it in the faces that we're gutted. Because we won that trophy. But Man United seem to have just gone into that game, played a slightly weaker team, and just, what, we're focused on the top four. Let's forget about this trophy. We don't want the Europa League kind of thing. But I'm like, if you don't get the top four and end up finishing fifth, now you're fifth in the Europa League without a trophy. I'm like, why are you not going for the FA Cup?
I think that's their coping mechanism, bro. I think that's what you call it. That's how they cope with the loss. Because I'm sure if you spoke to any United fan at the beginning of the game, they would have told you that it's a game they wanted to win. 100%. I don't doubt that.
But do you reckon they would want to win it because it's Chelsea or because they genuinely want to win the trophy?
A trophy's a trophy at the end of the day. If you didn't, I feel like if they didn't want to win the trophy, they'd make it clear. And at the end of the day, they arrived for a fight. Obviously, you might say it's because it's Chelsea, but at the end of the day, there's a trophy to be won, and it's not it's not, for me, I class the EFL Cup as the sort of like the bottom feedest cup of the cup rankings.
I'd still want to win it.
I'd still want to win it, exactly. I'd still love it if Arsenal won that cup. And that's at the very bottom. For me, I class, obviously the top one is the Premier League. That's the prestigious one in the country. After that, I put the FA Cup. So it's, I'm sure everyone would as well. So I'm sure they would have loved to win the cup, 100%.
I think, I was even, Rio Ferdinand made a very good point. He was basically saying that Oli wouldn't have gone into that game telling them to lose. No manager would go into a game and tell his players to sit back, we're 2 points or from top four, let's sit back and just not win this game. Let Chelsea have it. There's no way Oli would have said that, So I think that's a good point to make. And to be fair, it just didn't seem like they put in effort. if you look at their previous form, you expect to see, a team can put in effort and lose 3-0. It's possible. You can get outplayed on the day, but they just didn't show the willingness like they did in previous games. Like even though yes, they did play, you can call it weaker teams or teams that are not as great as Chelsea, but there was just no effort, man. It didn't seem like they wanted to win the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we get into the hits and the misses, the hits, I think the first one we've got down here is Chelsea's attack and their directness. That's one thing that for me stood out in the game. Watching it yesterday was just how direct Chelsea were in their pressing and their play. Every single time they got the ball to that midfield, you could see that the number one thing on their mind was just trying to hit United and really put pressure on that United back line. I think to start the game, United went for 5 at the back, but we could discuss that in a second. But you could really see that in particular, one of the places that they were really trying to target, I feel, was the side where Wan-Bissaka was. And I think they really did try to press it. Yeah, they really did try to push them and press them. And especially one player I feel like did that quite a bit was Willian, because you could see that Mount and Willian were, they were sort of interchanging. They were the floaters in a sense. Sometimes you'd see Mount on the right, sometimes you'd see the Willian on the left. They were really working that very well. So every single time that I even remember a chance that Chelsea had where Willian started with the ball at the centre circle and literally drove all the way towards that Chelsea. The United back line, sorry. The only thing that let him down is he ended up getting on the left, he whipped it in, and it was a terrible ball. But you could really, really see how direct Chelsea were. And I think the message from Lampard was just literally just to take the game to them.
Yeah, especially because
them as much as possible.
Their top four fighters have taken a lot of punches lately. They've been having some difficult results. So I think to come like you said, Lampard must have been like to the boys, you need to go out there and get this win. We need that final. Especially because Chelsea would be confident as a club to beat Arsenal in that fight. They've done it before, in a final. They'd want to do it again. Yeah. So they'd be confident.
It's true. It's very true.
But Olivier Giroud, how do you think he performed, Do
you know what? I think in the game he played very well, but I know you love Giroud. Even when he was at Arsenal, you're a big fan of Giroud. But I just kind of want you to start with this one, like his effectiveness for Chelsea this season. Like, how do you actually think he's been?
See what I love about Giroud, Listen, the fact that this guy, he's not the best striker in the world, but if he lays out his winners' medals, you think he's one of the best players there. He's got Europa League medal, he's got a World Cup medal. Like, you can't talk to him. But honestly, his influence for Chelsea, like I was even talking to one of my boys the other day, and I was like, I feel like Arsenal could have utilised Giroud this season coming off the bench. He's a guy that can really get you a goal when you need one. He's got goals coming off the bench for Chelsea. He's got goals starting for Chelsea. Like I said, he's not the best striker in the world, but he will get those important goals, man. I'm telling you. Like, obviously, everybody refers back to when he was playing for Arsenal, and that season Leicester won the league, and they were saying that it was Giroud's fault that Arsenal didn't win the league that season, and Ozil didn't get into this struggle because he just kept missing and missing and missing. But maybe he just isn't that type of player to play 38 Premier League games consistently. He's the type of player that you bring him off the bench in a big game maybe. And then you start him against the likes of like Watford and Bournemouth and games like that. He will get you goals then. And like you were saying, each game is important at the end of the day. So if he's coming on and able to get a win out of his games, he's the type of player that will score when the team's not playing well. Do you know what I mean? When the team's not playing well, he will get that goal that can nick you the 3 points, man. And like he's done it a few times as well. And I rate him. I miss him. I want him to come back to Arsenal, but he just scored against.
My problem with Giroud, before you go on, is just that. No, I fully agree with you. But then for me, it's just a goal. That's my problem with Giroud. He will score a goal. And I've always said that he'll 5 chances, Giroud will score 1. Whereas you've got a player like Aubameyang, 5 chances, he's probably scored 3 out of 5.
I get it.
But sorry, go on. You said you even scored against
Who was it again? He even scored against us in the Europa League final
Exactly,
last year.
yeah.
I was going to
Last
say.
season.
Yeah.
But
You know, he's come on what? This season he's played 16 league games. Obviously, that's starting and coming off the bench, and he scored 6 goals. You know, I mean, you obviously don't expect much from him, but those 6 goals have helped Chelsea a lot.
But for me, the effectiveness side comes from his hold-up play. He's the one thing I will not fault Giroud for, hold-up play, and he's a player that you can count on to get his head on the ball when it goes in the box. His head, the outside of his foot, the inside of his foot, it just doesn't matter. He seems to be able to score with anything and everything. So, but for me, as I said, he's not. You know, I've always said this about Giroud, and that's why even while he was at Arsenal, not trying to take it away from Chelsea, but while he was at Arsenal, I always said that we still needed another striker because Giroud can't get you 20 goals, 20 plus goals. He can't do it. It's just not in his DNA. But you know, playing alongside some brilliant players, playing alongside players that he can actually bring into the game, he is class, and I think that's what he's been doing for Chelsea. Aside from that as well, you know, getting his head on the ball whenever the ball's whipped in. He's a target man. He's your ultimate target.
Yeah.
And I do love that about him. And I think both Chelsea have seen that this season. Because remember, at one point in January, it looked like he was on his way out. Because it looked like Chelsea weren't using him, and it almost looked as though he was going to go. But I think Frank Lampard obviously changed his mind, and he's ended up staying. And you know, arguably yesterday, Chelsea were dominating United for a period of the game, but I can honestly say that the turning point probably was that goal that he scored. 100%. And it probably, at that point, United's heads just dropped. The heads dropped, and then, you know, it brought other people into the game. So, yeah, it's true. But moving forward, another hit for Chelsea is Kovacic and Jorginho. Running that midfield yesterday. Kovacic, I'm not too sure if you know him or have seen him play from his Madrid days, but he's such a maestro. But what did you think of their performance yesterday?
I think when you look at their performance, that's when you can really admire the importance of a midfield in football. Like I think sometimes it can go really unappreciated, but you know, obviously the top players, they get a lot of limelight, but that performance yesterday, man, they were the core of that team. Like, honestly, they were allowing all the football to flow that game. And if I'm honest, I don't think they would have been able to score 3 goals if it wasn't for those two.
I think it's true because they linked, even when we talk about the directness that Chelsea showed yesterday, they were literally that link between, obviously, the midfield and the attack. And it's almost as if the driving that Chelsea were doing started from them. It's almost as if like everything kind of was passing through them in the middle. And yeah, in general, I think it's a tactic that Chelsea might even take to use in the final now because the two of them were just sublime yesterday. So that was a massive, massive, massive hit for Chelsea, I reckon.
Yeah.
And the final hit we'll give to Manchester United, and that was their start to the match. We included this because I honestly, watching the game, I thought, you know, United were up for it. You know, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying about how, you know, whether or not they would want to win the game. I think they really, really, really did want to win it. Because at the start of the game, you saw their 2 wing players, or the 2 people that they had up front anyway, because obviously they started a bit differently. But they had Dan James and Marcus Rashford, and they were really, really trying to hit that Chelsea defense with their pace. So quite frankly, at the beginning of the game, I was actually kind of scared for Chelsea because United kind of exploded out the blocks. They started really, really well. As soon as the game started,
I don't know what happened.
You could see
after the drinks breaks, they just couldn't be asked.
That's the thing. That's the part that they didn't keep up. But yeah, we'll go into that in the misses section. But at this present moment in time, I don't know what you made of it, but for me, the directness, especially looking at that, the fact that they started Dan James. Obviously, we all know he has a lot of pace. Marcus Rashford, again, pace, skill, he can finish. You could see what they were trying to do in a sense, and I think they did explode out the blocks. So I give them that hit as a positive.
To be fair, I think there was even the fact that they played like the likes of, you know, Lindelof and Williams and James going into that game, I was almost like, what do they really want to achieve from this game? Like, there was some guys that needed to prove themselves, and they didn't prove themselves. You know, James didn't prove himself that game, in my opinion. You know, he could have done a lot more to support Rashford. But that's what I was like. I looked at the lineup, and I was just like, I don't know if they really want this trophy. But obviously, like you were saying, the first half, they seem to be playing decent, and it just fell off for them after. Like I said, after the drinks break, bro. That drinks break, I'm telling you, has a huge effect on teams. After the drinks break, some teams come out looking at Real Madrid.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it because it kind of gives it like a basketball / hockey kind of feel to it. I love the aspect of a drinks break, and going to get like fresh ideas on board from the manager anyway. But yeah, let's just come towards the end of the video now with the misses for Manchester United, the things that they didn't actually do very well.
Ooh.
Like
I was saying before, only starting 11.
Yeah.
I reckon, you know. Obviously, it's FA Cup, so you kind of want to give players a chance to prove themselves, express themselves. So giving chances to the likes of Williams and James, who haven't really been starting that much games this season. You know, you want to see them, you know, do well. But this is the FA Cup semi-final, not the third round. You know, this is the semi-final against Chelsea, a team that are known for winning this competition too. You know, like, what are you really trying to prove here? You know, like, do you genuinely not care? Are you trying to show that? Are you trying to give these players a chance so they can prove themselves to people? Like, I just didn't really understand the starting 11, and I think they really lost confidence early on in the game. Like, obviously they had that first 15 minutes where they were doing well, and after that they really lost confidence, and it really stretched all the way back to De Gea, and he made loads of mistakes.
It's true, to be fair, because even zoning in on the starting 11, especially from a United point of view, I think they set up for failure in a sense, and it goes to what you said just now, actually, which was a brilliant point in the sense that it's an FA Cup semi-final. This is for the final. This is for the to get yourselves one step closer to the trophy. And you come playing, you know that it's not like, you know, it's like, let's say Arsenal versus Man City, where you know you're gonna spend a lot of time without the ball. But you know, this is United Chelsea. You're in similar places on the table. You've had similar sort of seasons anyway, and it's more or less a 50-50 game. And you come out playing 5 at the back. That for me, I feel like as soon as I saw their formation, I was like, damn, these guys are really. Like, you're actually giving Chelsea a lot of respect right now. Like, playing 5 at the back in the system that they did anyway, because from the looks of things, it looked like Chelsea kind of did the same thing. But, you know, United system just looked a lot more negative. And just the way that they played, as I said, it just played right into Chelsea's hands, because United were quite conservative as the game went on. But as I said, Chelsea's directness, and they were trying to move forward, they were trying to press, and they were trying to play and trying to push forward. And I feel like United didn't show the same thing, because at times even Wan-Bissaka coming forward from the right hand side as he was playing wing back yesterday, he got the ball kind of moving in towards Chelsea's half, and it's almost as if he didn't really know what to do with it. Didn't really have many options available. It just didn't work out. It literally just didn't work out for them. Like,
a lot of people are saying that now their true colours are showing, because, you know, they haven't really played much big teams since the restart. So a lot of people are saying their true colours are showing now. Like, this team is actually done out here.
No, I'm one of those people. I can't lie, I'm one of those people, because I think I even tweeted it the other day when I said that, you know, this is the United team that, you know, they've been raving about for the last couple of weeks now. They've been putting in performances against like people in the bottom half of the table, just getting so happy off of it. And you know, you come into a semi-final, you get they quite frankly, you know, it was a penalty, but if they didn't get a penalty, you were really scared to see if United were going to score at all. But you're right in a sense. You know, the team that has worked for them, the players that have worked for them, Mason Greenwood, who's worked for them, Martial, who's worked for them, Pogba, who's worked well with Fernandes, all left out of the starting lineup. And it was very, very confusing for me And I'm not too sure if Ollie was just trying to hit them with an element of surprise. He tried to be a bit too smart with it, a bit too cute with it, and it just didn't work out.
Because even when them guys come off the bench, they didn't really do much. You know?
Yeah, I just kind of feel like they weren't even given the chance to do anything, because at that point, your teammates are even tired as well. So it's just not as fresh. And at that point, I think Chelsea were like 2-0 up, or probably 2-3-0 up maybe. So yeah, all in all, I think it was just a disaster class from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
You think Ole's the man to take United forward? Because obviously, before the restart, United were a mess. I only think they're in the top 4 or in competition to be in the top 4 because the likes of Arsenal have been whack. You know, there's not really been much challenge for them since the restart.
Yeah,
Wolves have dropped points. Leicester's dropping points. Chelsea's dropping points. You know, Arsenal's dropping points.
I'm not sure. In terms of Solskjaer, I've never really been a believer. I'm not a United fan, if I'm honest. But, you know, for me, I can look at Chelsea and Lampard and I can say Lampard's going to take Chelsea places.
I can see that.
I can look at Arteta with Arsenal and say Arteta's going to take Arsenal places. But, you know, with Solskjaer, I've never really been a believer, if I'm honest. I feel like they have too many gaps in performances. You know, they perform well over a course or a period of a few games, then they'll just drop off. And that's why, you know, when they were beating all of these teams in the bottom half of the table, I wasn't really convinced at the time. I was just like, why are you guys bigging this up so much? Just wait. You know, they beat a couple of teams at the bottom half of the table and they started saying, yeah, we're going to be challenging for the Premier League next season. I'm like, what? You haven't played any of the good teams and you're, you know, no. At the end of the day, no. And it was only, 3 wins? And then I think, 2 or 3 wins, and then they drew to Southampton after a few games, and that kind of knocked them right back down there. But I think this has knocked them right back into reality, if I'm honest.
This is what I'm saying. And now, if United don't get the top 4, the fact that they will not win a trophy this season unless they win the Europa. Yeah, they've been knocked out of the FA Cup. If they don't win the Europa League and miss out on the top 4, you have to talk about Ole being sacked. Honestly, because they've achieved absolutely nothing. They've been on a rebuild for years, bro.
For years and years,
He left in 2013. They've been on a rebuild for ages, fam. You know? And for them to not achieve anything this season, you need to talk about Ole's position.